it's almost 2 o'clock. Well, it just turned 2 o'clock, so let me let just a few more people join us. Oh, thank you for hopping on. And so again, if you've not heard of the NEED Project, it's need.org, N-E-E-D, and it's a nonprofit organization, and it's a terrific opportunity for you to see what else is out there. If you are looking for additional science curriculum, even additional things to do from home, all these activities are so easy to replicate with materials that you might have or that you can get. All right, so in just a minute, I'll go ahead and get us started. Okay, so hopefully some more people are able to see that we've gone live, but don't worry if you know someone who has missed it, we will also post this online later. So to start off, my name is Samantha Danielli, and I've been a NEED teacher, the NEED Project, as I was mentioning just a few minutes ago, the National Energy Education Development Project. I've been a NEED teacher for many years, for 9 years that I've been a teacher, but I've been involved with the NEED Project for a very long time. So I love all the activities we do. Now today's activity is going to be something that I've done with my primary level students, but if you love physics, you can get into this topic if you love sound, you can get into this topic even at the higher levels as well. So even up in the secondary level and beyond, you can get into more complex levels of the physics behind it. So today's topic is sound. And what we're going to do is do a couple demonstrations, and some of these things you can replicate at home, and some of them, if you don't have the materials, you can just watch and see. So that's a lot of fun. So to begin with, I wanted to show you a tool that can be super helpful. Here we have a tuning fork, and this is 256 hertz, and this is 512 hertz. So the reason why I have this to show you is because it is a really great demonstration as to what sound is. So sound is energy, and energy is when we can see something moving. Energy is all around us, and it does not disappear. It transforms from one form of energy to the other and to the next. So here is a great demonstrator for sound. Okay, so when I strike the tuning fork, I want to make sure I hold it down below. If you hold it up here, you're going to cause it to not fully vibrate, which is what we want to see. And I'll explain more in just a second. So when I strike this, okay, if I get close here, doesn't that look pretty blurry? It's not blurry because I'm too close to the camera. It's blurry because of the vibration. So what happens is a material will vibrate, and the air around it then will, or whatever medium it is, whether it's water, or in this case the air, is going to then have the vibration move through the air until it comes to our ears. So let me try that again. So you can see how down at the base we don't notice it vibrating as much, but here you can see how it's a little blurry, so that shows that it's vibrating. And then it continues even at the nanoscale, it's vibrating just a little bit. So even if I get really close to my ear, and I can show you with this one as well. If you don't have a rubber mallet, what I like to use as an alternative is a rubber pad. And the reason why that can assist us is because we don't want to hit this against the side of a table and damage our tuning fork. but also we don't want to damage what we're using. So I'll hit this one. Okay, can you hear that? So what we're noticing is that this is a higher frequency than what this one was. Okay, so how do we know that sound moves? Well, I just demonstrated how we could see that an object is vibrating. And so by seeing that something is vibrating, then we are able to see something that is usually quite invisible to us. But I realize I left something off the table. Just a second. This is one of my favorite tools that the Need Project lets me borrow. It is this gigantic slinky. Now the reason why I like to use this slinky to demonstrate sound waves is because what we can do is you can see how the compression wave will move through the slinky. If I had a long space, like 2 feet, then we'd stretch this out and we'd see the movement. But what you'll notice is when I move the energy from here, it will continue to send that energy through the rest of the slinky. And this compression wave is very similar to how the sound waves are moving. Light waves move differently than sound waves, so that's why this is really good to demonstrate this way. Okay, so did you see how the compression moved on through? Now I'm holding it tight at the end so that way it has an ending spot. But usually we would even be able to see it come back a little bit. Let's see if I can try that one more time. It did. So that can be an example of how sound waves will, whenever it hits like the edge of a canyon, or if our sound hits a really hard surface, like a wall or something like that, then it's going to bounce off and come back to us. And then whenever we hear that sound coming back to us, that's when we're hearing an echo. Okay, so I have a few other things to show you. So again, sound is energy, and sound, when it's moving, we can see it as a wave like this, and we'll see. Okay, so we can't visibly see the sound waves moving, but this allowed us to demonstrate that. And an example of how we know that the sound was moving was because when we looked at the tuning fork, we can see how this is a little blurry, but this is not down here. So that shows how this is vibrating. Okay? Now, one of the things I mentioned that if you had seen this ahead of time, that we could have some materials ready. I mentioned a can and some plastic wrap or some wax paper. So I have a can here because I know that that's something that some people might have around. So I had peas for dinner last night, so we have this can. We put the rubber band so it's nice and tight. Another thing you could do is a bowl. So if you have a rubber band that's large enough to go around a bowl. So you notice how I put some colored sugar here. So I used colored sugar so you could easily see it. But here I have some salt. So you could do a pinch of salt as well. Okay, so 2 different ways we could do this. First off, with the pinch of salt. Okay, so I've got it right here. And I'm going to go ahead and use the tuning fork first, and then I will show you how you can do this from home if you don't have the tuning fork. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and strike the tuning fork with the rubber part. I'm going to get close, but not touch. Okay, so I might be shadowing this, so I will move it a little closer, and let me go ahead and do that one more time. Wow. Okay, so I am not tilting that. Those were moving all because of the vibration of the metal that was causing the air molecules to vibrate. And those were transferring all these vibrations all the way to the salt. Now, I tell you what, I don't usually have the tuning forks at home either. I was able to borrow them from my work. So we have the ability to vibrate things on our own. So I'm going to hum. So I'm not going to blow. Don't blow. We're going to hum. And see what we can do to our sugar. So if you look at these couple over here, let me put just a couple more. Oh, good. I'm glad that some of you are saying that you were able to see the Need Project website. There's a section for students. There's a section for educators, for teachers. I love whenever I help my students learn about different energy sources. The section of the one-pagers for them to learn quick facts about the different sources of energy. And actually earlier today, I used the Need Project information about talking trash to help teach some of my kindergartners why recycling and information about landfills. So there's so many different ways you can use the Need Project. So I'm glad that I see someone hopped on and saw the website. So again, I put just a little bit more sugar here. So do you see a couple of them are jumping around? So that's because of my humming was causing the air to vibrate and cause the sugar to jump. Okay, so those are two things that you can replicate. One of the other things, if I take this off, if I strike my tuning fork again and bring it in here, okay, you can hear how that sounds different in the can than outside of the can. You can even touch your forehead, feel how that vibrates. Now, if you don't have a tuning fork like this, maybe even just striking the edge of a metal bowl, different size metal bowls, a variety of things like that. So I want to demonstrate a few more things, and then I'll have another activity you can do from home as well, which this next one you can do from home, but it's not the same sort of project. So I have several different size and shape of glasses here. Okay, so the key thing with this is we are going to cause these to sing a little bit, so that's a lot of fun. Sometimes it takes a little practice. One thing that I had learned is that if you want to try to and make your glasses sing, it's good to wash your hands first, because our natural oils could decrease the glass from doing this. Okay, so I just wet my fingers just a little bit, not too much, so just a little bit, so you can see they're just slightly shiny. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just rub the top of the glass. Ooh, there we go. So at first it's a little rough, and then you can get to it. Wow, did you hear that? I think my baby heard that all the way in the room because she perked up her ears a little bit. So next I'm going to go to one that's a little bit different shape. It's more of like an hourglass shape. Sorry, don't mind the squeaking, but okay, do you notice how the sounds are a little different? And then I've got this one here. Okay, so what is happening here? Why am I able to get these sounds, so different and so loud? Okay, so what's happening is as I'm rubbing the top of the glass, I'm actually causing the glass itself to vibrate. And then it causes the air around it to vibrate, and we hear that. Now, if I wanted to change whether it's a high pitch or a low pitch, I can change the amount of water. Sorry, I can change how much space there is inside of here. So I'm going to pour quite a bit of water so there's not too much space. Because also what we'll do is we will notice if I have quite a bit of water in here. As I'm doing this, we should see the water itself, the water level, start to ripple as well. And that will show us that the glass is vibrating, which then indicates to us of how the vibration is happening in the air. Okay? Okay, so remember what that sounds like. Let me try to get a little bit closer so you can see that. So can you see that it's the water is rippling in a curved pattern, like it kind of goes like this? So that helps us see that the glass itself is what's vibrating. And so this got a little bit higher, and just so you remember what it sounded like, I'll pour the water out. Or even I'll just start, or have a little bit of water in here. Okay, so this sound wavelength would be closer together than the one with almost all the water. It would be, the crust would be farther apart. Okay, so that's really cool. You can do this anytime, different types of glasses. I did try with a few different types, and this shape, because of how it's thin through here, it's a little bit thin through here. You know, I was able to get the sound to really, really work nicely. Okay. So you could go from one to the next. Now, I was about to sing, but I don't think anyone wants to hear my singing voice without the assistance of making sure I'm on the right key. So the other thing that is interesting is if you have an empty bottle, this one happens to be brown, but basically you want to have a column of air and a thin neck up here, is you can... So what's happening with this is the air inside of the column here, the air starts to vibrate. And once that matches the natural frequency of the material's vibration, then we can hear that particular sound. At first, we're just hearing my air kind of move around inside of the bottle. But when we get it just right, then we hear that brings out a tone, and it's so beautiful because we can also change this tone like we did with the glasses, but what we're seeing here between these two is the glass, it was this that was vibrating, where now it has to do with the air vibration is matching the bottle, so that's pretty cool. All right, so I've got half, 2/3 filled with liquid in here. Oh my goodness! So we have less space for the air to be in here, and so we hear that it has changed. All right, so that's pretty cool. One of the other things that I wanted to make sure you remember is if you take your fingers and put them on your vocal cords and you change your own pitch, high versus low, So your vocal cords are vibrating, and then that causes the air to vibrate. There's so much around us. Now, one of the cool things that happened around here this past weekend is we had the Blue Angels fly by, and those Blue Angels, I was in an eye appointment and I thought I was going to be able to see them, so I wanted to see them, but I couldn't make my appointment go any faster, right? So I just was watching the time. Okay, is it almost time? Is it almost time? So I told everyone in the store, okay, this is what's going to happen. Now, once it was time and I heard the Blue Angels go by, they said, let's run outside. Well, what I know about sound and the fact that those Blue Angels fly so quickly, they were already gone by the time we heard them, because they were flying and we were getting the sound waves after the fact. And so I just saw pictures of it, but it was really amazing to see the unity amongst everyone and the encouragement and everything like that. So I mentioned if you had seen ahead of time that you could have had a little pinch of rice, even some wax paper and a toilet paper tube. So what you could do with a toilet paper tube or a paper towel tube is you can sort of explore a few different sort of noisemakers, if you will, but it has to do with the vibration of the material. So if you wanted to do put cling wrap on the edge, that might vibrate differently than, this is a coffee filter, but this is wax paper. So we have all these different types of materials, and we can explore how, okay, if it's thicker, is it thinner? How much space is there for the air molecules to vibrate? Now, if I were to have the tuning fork be put in a large vat of water, we could explore, does the sound vibration travel faster in the water versus the air? And of course, if we were in space, we would not be able to hear sound at all because there would be no medium for the sound to travel through. Okay, so inside of this one, I have teeny little seeds. Okay, so we have seeds in there. Oops. This one has actually beads. So let me put that back on. Oh, I think this one's pretty old because my rubber band is not holding it so tight anymore. Now, the reason why I mentioned possibly doing toothpicks is because if you want, you can even create your own sort of different sort of texture and sounds by having item is in there for the salt or the rice to go with. So let me go ahead and put on a little bit of saran wrap. I do have wax paper also, but the saran wrap I just took off of the can so I can use this. Reusing materials, always plus. Don't forget to recycle when you are finished with these this material. The plastic wrap is not an option, but okay, so whenever you put these in, if you put several different toothpicks, then you'll have some interesting textures to listen to. Check this out. I made this when I was 8 years old, I think. So this is a gigantic I think tube, probably from, what would you say, wrapping paper, right? So all across and in these little spots here, you can see we had stuck pins, so you can hear it slows down the material, so that, and we have different pins to vibrate as well, so that creates a whole new texture. Let's listen to that. So that's pretty fun because you can hear the, if you go slow, versus fast. So lots of different options for you to create your own sort of noisemaker. I have another exciting one that you can do from home. So what I did was I took 2 different size tissue boxes and I used the same exact rubber band because I wanted you to see the same thickness. And what I did is I went ahead and stretched it long ways because that sort of reminds you a little bit of a guitar, except the guitar would have the open hole in one spot and then all the different frets all the way along the top. So what you can notice is if you go from the top to the bottom and find that middle spot and pluck it. Now if you choose to pluck it from a different spot, does it sound different? Does it sound the same or different according to how it relates to the amount of air? Okay, so this is the thin box. Now this one's a little bit deeper. Let's see if that sounds any different. Okay. Yeah, that sounds quite a bit lower in tone. Wait a minute, let's try that again. And oh, okay. So, I mean, even though they're the same, about the same length, the open hole is different sizes. We use the same rubber band. So different ways that you can experiment with materials around the house and hear how the air is going to vibrate around it. You can even use a straw. And what you can do with the straw is it's better if you have the accordion straws, the bendy straws. But so you pinch one end. And then what you would do is cut a few holes. Get help with the scissors, of course. I don't want anyone to get hurt. So what we're doing is just cutting 3 different holes. And the reason why we're cutting 3 different holes is because, and it could just be 1 or 2, is it allows you to change the length of the straw. Now the straw itself is not changing in length, but what it is doing is where the air would come out. So now it's this long versus this long versus this long. So, oh, except I... And then what you would do is you'd buzz into it. Except my is not pinched very well. So kind of like what you would do with, I used to be a clarinet player, and you would blow carefully the air through the opening, and it would cause the material to vibrate. Okay. And I can always share in the comments an example of doing this, because it worked earlier with my other straw, but I wanted to show while you were on. It's also sort of similar to whenever you take a piece of grass outside and you put that grass in between your thumbs pinched, like here, and then you would blow in between. And what happens is the grass will vibrate in between that small space, and then you would be able to hear different tones depending on how tight, how thick the grass is, all sorts of different examples of how that all works. Are there questions about what we've kind of explored? I showed you how you can hum and see the sugar dance. So we were able to see some of the sugar dance We also were able to see how sound waves travel and how the compression wave will travel nicely through the air. Different mediums, sound will travel at different rates, so it travels faster or slower. One of the other things I wanted to mention is when you're exploring deep down in the earth, you could do core samples, but a lot of times geologists will actually use sound waves. If you're underwater, submarines will use sound to find out how far away things are from them. And animals will use sound underwater as well. They will communicate that way, and they can communicate as well as they can locate where things are. So for instance, you've heard of echolocation, and that helps them understand where something is in relation to them. So sound is not only for our enjoyment, musical instruments and other sorts of things. It allows us to hear. And I didn't even get into the how the vibration is inside of our ear, inside of the cochlear. But then also, dogs are able to hear much wider range than what humans are. There's just so much complexity. But as I mentioned earlier, if you were in middle school, high school, you can get into the physics behind. Now, why will this have a different resonant frequency than this one? Or what are the variety of different things that we can look into? I don't want to get into all of those at this scope, but please know if this excites you or interests you, you certainly can dive further into it. Are there other comments or questions coming in? I'll check to see if I missed anything. Let me see. And I will go ahead and check in, and we will be posting this video not only with the Need Project avenues, but in other areas as well. So feel free to share with other people. It looks like I don't see too many other comments coming in that I missed. So I certainly hope that you continue to explore at home. Let us know if you have any questions, and we'll put it on the Need YouTube channel. Sorry about that. I was trying to think of all the different avenues that we can put it out there for you. Any topics you're interested, let us know, and we hope to do additional live experiments throughout all these times, but especially tune in on Thursday, and we will have a balloon rocket one to explore. So thank you for joining us, and hopefully we can get together soon. Bye.